Friday. Do you know you need to take Friday in your hand like this, and you need to give it a good squeeze, because Friday is, it's the end of the week, and there's all that tension and that stress that sort of builds up during the week. So, Marianne, you've got a little thing there that can really help with that.
My friend bought it for me. It's stress ball.
Yeah.
Or two stress
balls. Stress balls.
Yes. That might hurt some men if I do that, if they're watching.
I love the fact that it goes red at the end when you do that. Just demonstrate that again. Oh my word.
I saw a video. I saw some pictures once when I was doing someone was doing their micro teach. They did it on about the importance of putting your harness on properly if you're not just when you're in construction, but if you were going to go and save somebody that was in trouble. And they didn't warn me that they were going to put this picture on of what happens if you don't. And it resulted in two things outside of exited, and they actually showed
displacement. That's cool.
They showed the picture of them outside of their casing, and I was rather taken aback.
Oh my
The feedback I gave was, you might want to warn somebody if you're going to do such a thing.
This micro teach comes with a public health warning.
Yeah.
Do you think micro teachers could have like ratings, as in when you go to the cinema?
Well, I mean, if I was gonna be really like anal about the whole thing, really, if you're going to show something that might be disturbing, but depending on what the purpose of the training is, because if it was that you were going to be doing, I don't know, grief counselling training or something like that, then actually, if it was upsetting, it's sort of going to be that you do have to sort of be careful. So yeah, I was a little bit horrified.
Wow.
At seeing that.
Wow.
I just wondered if they ever went back in their casing. That was the way my mind went, because I felt sorry.
Well, no, absolutely. Well, we're gonna talk probably health and safety a little bit today with our special guest and training and all of those sort of things. If any of you out there have got things that you use to demonstrate something when you're training that's a little bit more unusual, then do let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to perhaps as this goes out across the different social medias, perhaps you could post some photos. Keep it relatively clean though, folks. I haven't eaten yet today. Of what you might use in your training to demonstrate something in an unusual way. That would be marvelous. We're going to bring our special guest in today, and he's a guy called Guy. So here he is. Hi, Guy.
Good to see you both.
It's a great name, by the way, isn't it?
No,
Guy?
it's not. No.
For that reason, you've had that joke every single year of your life since you were how long?
There's a guy called Guy.
Yeah,
it's
I don't like it. I think I've got quite a good surname, Di Salvo. I think it's a smoking surname, but Guy, it's a disappointment.
Yeah.
Did you tell your parents?
What was it? What was it? Was it worse when you were young, though, Guy? Was it worse when you were?
No, it's still bad.
Oh, okay. Because some names are bad, especially when someone's young. I think they're particularly bad. Well, actually, or some names are great when someone's a kid, but then you think that's never going to work when you grow up. I mean, like all of when all the celebrities were calling their kids like River and Leaf and Apple and whatever. You think it's great when they're a kid because you look at them cute and you go, oh,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Leaf. Oh, how nice, you called your kid Leaf. But then when they grow up and they try and get a job and stuff like that, I mean, it's like
you've got to have the personality to carry off
a leaf. What's the personality of a leaf?
Good question.
isn't it? You know.
The funny names though, you've got to. When we looked at names, you had to sort of think. Some names you've really got to own, haven't you? And if that, like Willow, I really like the name Willow.
Oh yeah.
But if I had called my son, if he'd been a girl, Willow, which I guess I could call him that as a boy, I don't think he'd have thanked me. He's not particularly willowy.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
What you're saying is some people kind of inhabit their names in terms of the way that they look.
If it's gonna be a name that's like that, if you've got a name that's quite a loud or quite a, it's not gonna. But my friend's partner's called. He does laugh about this, not me. Well, I did actually. Wayne.
Oh God,
Wayne.
yeah,
really.
And someone actually thought, but not many Waynes left at all. And he said, I just cringe. He said, I cringe telling people my name is Wayne because it's just.
I hated my name as a kid. Absolutely hated it. Got bullied for it.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought that's a nice, steady name. That Graham.
No, because
I call him Pinkham now. But why bullied?
And I've heard this from other Grahams as well because kids changed it to Gayham.
Ah, yeah.
What?
Kids are like that. They're cool. And here's the thing about that. That was back in a time when, homosexuality or being being of a different orientation in terms of your love life and whatever was completely different, right? And it was hard. It was hard. Like kids were really nasty about it. And I just think once you've only got to have one kid that's like gets on it, and then everybody gets on it because they think it's clever, whatever. So I would have happily changed my name. I mean, it might have been different these days because kids are, we've grown up in kids growing up in a time when they're a lot more understanding, I think, and acceptable. We grew up in quite a tough time, I think, in terms of the way that we reacted to stuff. I don't think teachers were particularly good at school about teaching kids to be PC or to be, or to sort of squash or put down anybody that was different. I mean, do you remember it was being talked about the other day on a documentary? Does everybody remember Joey Deacon?
Yeah.
From Blue Peter. Yeah, exactly. And so totally wrong that was kind of allowed to, escalate into sort of popular culture in the way that it did. That it became, his name became synonymous with being quite cruel about anybody that was, challenged physically, and and it was just really bad. I don't think we'd see it these days, fortunately, but I think we were really quite cruel about names back then. There you go. Enough about names. If you've got a bad name out there, and you think you can top all of our names, and certainly I'm not going to tell anybody here my middle names because I'd have to kill you.
I'm alive, and I know.
Well, yeah, okay, but it's for the rare few to find that out. You have to come and speak. Everyone has to come and speak to me offline if they want to find that out. So, Guy, tell us a little bit about you and what it is that you do.
So I've retired from the fire service last year, and the majority of my time in the fire service, all the time I remained operational, and for the last 20 years of my operational service, I was a crew manager, which meant you were the officer in charge of incidents. And normally that was always, you're always the first on the scene. So it's quite a kinetic incident. It's quite fast moving. And decisions had to be made and plans had to be created. And a short snap.
was interesting when I went out a while ago to do an observation. One of the guys took me around one of the engine stuff.
The fire engine appliance.
Is it called a fire engine?
Yeah, you call it whatever you like. Yeah,
fire engine. Yeah. So anyway, it took me around there.
Yeah.
And I was quite shocked actually at how little there was concerning water related stuff. It was so much was to do with, because they call it is it something rescue or
it's fire and rescue now. Yeah.
Which actually when I was really quite shocked. He went around the whole lot that there was very little that was actually fire related. You know, hoses.
Yeah. I mean, most of our work is not fire now. It's road traffic collisions, water rescue. That's what I was part of a water rescue team where you can commit to water, rope access, rope rescue. So it's a multitude of disciplines now. Yeah, fire is quite a small part of our job.
And the other bit was which the guys that I had, it was guys as well. I'm not being sexist. Was that mental health stuff. So they were talking about, which is interesting for me, given my background, they were talking about how many instances, well, there was some funny incidences that that you get to see as well, but there was the other side of it of people they repeatedly go out to that maybe are quite isolated, and it was interesting them hearing it from my point of view about the whole mental health side of it, them understandably being frustrated and somewhat judgmental about the lack of help that was out there. But obviously my side of it, deliver a Mental Capacity Act training and understanding about that, I was trying to explain. But I was quite shocked that they have no training on any of that. And when you look at the stuff that you have to deal with, because often now it's the ambulance service can't go, the police can't go, and then you seem to be the ones that get everything to go to. I was quite shocked actually.
Yeah, the fire service prides itself on never saying no, we can't go. We always turn up, always. Yeah. And I'll happily call out my former fire service, Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service. The mental health training is non-existent, and the mental health support is non-existent. It's a tick box. And when I talk about it, my heckles go up because I'm really angry about it. It's not changed at all.
Wow.
We've got you dealing with the public that, you know, like I said, I've seen it from being somebody that does moving and handling training for people in care, hearing that when someone falls, the ambulance service would often get called out. They then can't come, so you guys get called out, you know, which to a degree I have an issue with the care, because there's no that the fire service often say, oh, they can't pick them up. I said, actually they can. I said, and when they have their training, of course, somebody doesn't just fall down in the middle of somewhere. You have to use this to make a decision about what you're going to do as safely as you can at the time. I said, the fire service you get come in don't have any special powers or equipment that you don't have. It's just buck passing. So you've got that side of it dealing with the public who might have mental health problems, but then you've got the side of it that you then see things that, you know, I mean, I've told you about my dad's, suicide, and I'm sure there's things that you see that I'm horrified to hear that there's no, but the police, I know that there isn't really much support. I think the fire service, much less.
Yeah, it's very important. If we do get the training, it'll be online tick box.
Wow. Which really is, as we know, because we talk about it not only in that situation, but I mean, I talk about sort of training across all sectors. Anything that's tick box generally doesn't serve the purpose.
No, it's pointless.
Mental health stuff.
Well, anything where, look, I'm going to bring it back to my messy people thing again. Anything where you're really dealing with the messy side of humanness, and you know, and it crosses over into psychology, and it crosses over into you know, much more emotional aspects, and it crosses over into you know, people with potentially different ways of thinking and learning and cognition and whatever, putting it on a sheet or putting it on a, you know, online with a load of tick box questions just doesn't deal with it.
No.
You know, even like I was talking about last week with regards to, you know, in my post when I was talking about non-verbal communication. Yeah. How do you judge things like that? How do you judge, you know, whether somebody's ability to read somebody effectively or be read by somebody else effectively? How do you judge that on what is effectively a spreadsheet? You can't do it.
No,
you know?
No, you can't.
It's crazy. I want to take you back, Guy, a stage, because I think I've always heard, when you watch these programs on TV to do with the services, right, to me it brings up a myriad of questions in my head, and I kind of want to work through some of those, because I'm pretty certain it will be exactly the same for anybody kind of viewing this today as well.
Okay.
So one of the things is, so the call comes into a call center, something's happened, etc. Now that person in the call center then has to make a decision, correct, about who attends that scene? Or
they deploy the resources. They'll have. So if the address will come up, and that address will correlate to a certain station area, which will have a fire engine to be deployed to. That's how it works.
Right. But beyond that, I mean, that they will decide whether fire service, fire and rescue service attend, or police attend, or ambulance attend, or everybody attends, or do they? How's that initial decision made as to what services attend?
Right. What normally happens? So you'll ring 999, and they'll say, "Hello, what service do you require?" And they may say police, fire, or ambulance, and then if you say we need a fire engine, then they'll put you through to the fire service. And
so let's stop there.
Yeah.
Right, because that's always been the case.
Yeah.
How many people in the middle of a panic situation actually know what they need at a situation?
Well, they'll probably ask a few more questions. Right. What's the problem? My aunt is not breathing. Okay, right. Stay on the line. We'll put you through to the ambulance service. So it'll be dealt with further questioning.
Right. So that determines who then arrives at the scene.
Yeah.
So if you've got you know, the likelihood is if you've got a major RTA or whatever, then it is probably everybody's going to arrive, because you no doubt have got.
Yes. If the resources are available.
If the resources are available.
Yeah. So we've been deployed times where we've gone to road traffic collision, the person's trapped, which means there are people trapped in the car and we need to cut them out. When you've got persons trapped, then a further 2 appliances are deployed with an emergency rescue tender, which has got even more specialist kit, and an ambulance should be deployed as well, with police as well, to control the traffic. However, we've been many times on our own with just 4 of us,
right,
for a while, which is an uncomfortable place to be.
And again, that happens across all different forces. Well, I mean, I think we've seen. If you watch any of these programs, folks, the amount of times that you've seen, like someone from the police force have been sent in pursuit or whatever, and then like they are the only person there, and they're on solo for the evening, and they know that that's dangerous. They know that that's really dangerous, because
they play a numbers game.
They're walking into a situation where potentially. You know, there's 5 or 6 people against one, which is not where you want to be. So my next question is, right, because this is a particular interest to me, and I'll tell you why in a minute, is that you all have training as to how to deal with particular situations, but do you have training with the other services? So do you have any kind of cross-pollination training, etc.? Because I have been in a situation where something happened to me, and one service arrived on scene, got me to do something. Then another service arrived on scene, and they were shouting blue murder at the first service because they'd got me to do something. And it was like, okay, and you kind of feel like caught in the middle of it, but they're arguing the toss as to what should have happened.
There is more and more interagency training. However, because of the lack of resources between all three emergency services, it is hard to get us together. I know in my previous stations that I worked at, we did try and occasionally train with the East Midlands ambulance service. So yeah, we do try, but it's always lack of resources that stops the training.
I know when I went over to what's the area that I was in where I was doing it? Milton Keynes area.
Buckinghamshire. Buckinghamshire.
Is it Boxall beds? Yeah.
So all of theirs, I was training their trainers, and I was at the, I don't know what it's called, tri-service, but it's the Blue Light Hub, I think it was.
Yeah.
Huge, massive building where they all are. And then when I went in to go downstairs to go and get a cup of tea, they actually, you expect that they'd all use the same facility, but apparently not. That the fire service used the kitchen, and then there was like a canteen, but I wouldn't really call it a canteen. It was a seating area, dining room. And then there was a little sort of area, and that bit was for the ambulance service, maybe, I think. And then the police weren't even in there. And I was like, well, that's not exactly working together. So there was that side of it. Then I said, oh, it would be really good if like you could pool resources to be able to get someone like me to come in so that it can be across the services.
Yeah.
They were like, no, that ain't going to happen. I mean, they said the whole idea about bringing the services under one roof was partly to share resources. But they said it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So actually, this building that's massive.
That is absolutely crazy. Well, I'll very quickly tell you what happened to me without getting anybody into trouble. So I was driving. You'll love this. It's a great story. I was driving down the M23 towards sort of past Gatwick area.
Yeah.
Towards Haywards Heath, where I had a next appointment. And as I was driving, it was you've got to use your visualization, folks, because this is very important. I'll teach you about visualization and accidents in a minute. But as I was driving, it was a beautiful, clear day. I was on the motorway. There was nothing else in front of me, and there was nothing else behind me. So you'd think fairly safe, really. And all of a sudden, and my car came to a halt, and I think I blacked out for a second. My airbag had gone off. My car was in absolute shreds, and I had no idea what had happened. You know, I was really quite confused because I was thinking there was nothing there, and then something's hit me. Well, what it was so obviously motorway, 2 carriages, a wheel, not a tire, a wheel from a car traveling on the opposite carriageway, traveling in the opposite direction, had come off. And it had bounced over the top of the central reservation, hit the front of the car. Fortunately, the bonnet flipped up. It rolled up the bonnet and landed back on the other reservation again, about another 200 meters or so on the other side. Completely wrote the car off. So I was a little bit confused by all of that. But anyway, the lovely police arrived to find me and said, well, we do need to get this car off the motorway. So they asked me to step out the car and help them push the car off the motorway. Now, when the ambulance service arrived, they were a little bit annoyed about it because they said, did you do any kind of primary checks with this person to make sure that they were, hadn't sustained any injuries or whatever? And there was just a little fight going on by the side of the road because they were like,
and the fire service weren't even there at that point.
The fire service weren't there. The fire service weren't needed, to be fair. The fire service weren't there to help with any of that. But there you go. And I got towed away, got in another car and drove to my appointment.
I suspect, Guy, that's not the approach you would have taken.
It really hurt later that night. I managed to put my shoulder back in by hitting it against the wall. But there you go. That's for another day. But the point is that it made me realise that there was clearly stuff that people could have learned off of each other if they'd have sort of walked through a scenario like that together.
Yeah, definitely.
But even I found out that the fire services across the country aren't the same, are they? So
No.
Wow.
When I went out to observe the BA training, the breathing apparatus training, I'm not using acronyms that I'm going to explain. I was quite shocked when they were saying about how, you know, they can't share, like it makes it difficult then if they're going to share resources, whatever, because they do things differently, albeit slightly differently.
It just comes down to leadership. The leadership aren't willing to change. Well, we've always done it that way, Guy, so we're not going to change. Well, that's poor leadership. Yeah, we boarded 3 or 4 brigades, Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire, Lincolnshire and Northants. Now, I boarded Northants in my last few years, and their breathing apparatus equipment, what they go in to fight fires, is completely different to ours. So we could have 2 firefighters from each different appliance, and they have to do. It's just ridiculous, and they can't work together. It's crazy.
Is there not somebody that just is like the grown up of it all, or something?
Well, that means making a decision, Maz. The radios don't work together. We have to change the channels. It's just But to be honest, to be fair to the firefighters that actually go to the incidents, they are constantly trying to get training sessions to work together. So it's not the men and women on the ground. It's
totally.
Leaders. Yeah. Well, leaders.
I was given they gave me a bit of a lesson on the hierarchy, and I was absolutely shocked at how many there were. And I don't know if I'm going to speak out of turn here, but there was sort of like might want to blame the people at the top, but actually it was the people that were sort of at the low bit that were kind of stopping stuff. Some of the guys were saying they didn't want to go any higher because they knew that it would compromise their values, it would compromise what they get to do. So actually they'd be better off staying where they are because they'd get trapped in that bit.
Yeah. Now, this has got nothing to do with the fire service or any of the emergency services, okay? But it's another story. But it actually proves that if you work by putting out decent training, you catch everything.
Totally.
Right. So when I arrived at university, I arrived 6 weeks early for the start of university. And I had nothing to do, obviously, and I was miles away from home. I wasn't gonna go back home. So I thought, I'm going to find something to do. And I got wind that they were starting a new radio station locally, and I thought, this sounds like a great opportunity. I've always fancied to go at radio, so I hung out around this building where they were setting up this new radio station, and someone came along that was like carrying equipment in, and they said, what, are you interested in it? I said, yeah, I really want to see if I can get a job here. And they said, what is it you can do? And I lied through my teeth, and I said, I can do editing, because it was like the first thing I could think of. And I did used to like edit on my dad's tape player, but I mean, but here's the thing. They were a great radio station. And what they did was partly because actually all of the equipment that they were using had come over from Australia. So it was very different from a lot of English equipment, but all the way through as well, they decided to implement a lot of training. So they said, come in, and like everybody in the station got trained on everything.
Brilliant.
Everybody, right?
Yeah.
So I got taught to edit. And I was like, oh, yeah, have you seen this kind of equipment before? No, but nobody had, so it was fine. And I'm quite quick at picking stuff up. So I picked that up. And they said, oh, yeah, well, you can come in, you can do stuff. Then subsequently, they said, actually, because we're going to train everybody on everything. They then put me on a course on presenting. Turned out I was actually even better at that than editing. So I ended up presenting when the station started. But the point is, I didn't know how to do it. But because they implemented training, I did know how to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think organizations need to realize this. It's not even about improving people that have already got skills in a particular area. People don't put their hands up in organizations when they don't know how. They don't.
Very true.
So if you're implementing training and you're making sure that you're filling in the gaps, regardless, you catch stuff even when that's, those skills aren't actually there.
Yeah.
Oh, I tend to try and use case studies more than I used to, because actually they're really good for I find with refresher courses they're quite good for the we know everything gang, because actually it's a case study, and of course truth often does out itself by them showing without me having to, I don't want to bore people. If they do know this stuff, then that's absolutely fine, but I'm going to give you scenarios and then we'll see, because that's life, that's the way you deal with it. But I don't know if you see it, Guy, you must do. I think what the other side of things that people don't realize is, if you want to know stuff, go and ask a trainer. Ask a trainer, because you hear stuff in training that you will not. You hear stuff, you see stuff, you pick up on stuff that managers don't. That managers don't hear about stuff. I mean, I do group supervision when companies will invest in it, and managers will say they've done it, and I said, but it's pointless you doing it, because they're not gonna tell you stuff. If you use a trainer, because trainers are very good at doing it, you facilitate groups, and essentially that's what you're doing. Really, you're giving a space for them to be able to discuss whatever is there, with an understanding of stuff as well, without the judgment of a manager. But you must hear it though, Guy. You go in to do one thing, but actually I've heard stuff before that I've then reported to management because I felt a bit not sure about. But very rarely do I ever get asked, how did the session go? Is there anything that I need to? Very rarely does anybody ever follow up on that training to ask if there were any issues that came up or anything they need to know about.
Oh, really? Oh, right. I'm surprised at that. I mean, I know if we take a training session, we always ask for feedback. There's normally a form, and we ask for verbal feedback as well.
Oh, no, I mean management asking.
Oh, right. Yes, they do, to be fair. Yeah, they did in my former brigade. They were, because they wanted to make sure they were getting value. So to be fair, they were asking that question. Yeah.
But were they asking, so what came up once for me when I was in was that I felt that I'd been, somebody was quite racist towards me that I was training.
Bloody hell.
And it wasn't in a big group, it was in a smaller sort of setting. And there was quite a few things that they'd said that just made me feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the way I was treated. So anyway, when I went back to management in the end, I said, this might be nothing. I said, but I just feel a bit like this about it. And they said, actually, we had our suspicions, but we didn't have anything concrete.
Yeah.
So they asked me to write a report about it, actually. So it just showed, though, that I think as well, people's true colours come out in training.
I think what you're actually getting at here is again, it's the same sort of, it's all about attitude towards training in the first place, isn't it? Right. Yeah. So if you're going to implement lackluster tick box kind of training,
yeah,
are you actually going to be bothered to really then grill down into what's been learned out of that training as well?
No.
Probably not, because you probably actually see training as a bit of a bugbear. And actually, is this not half the problem? Do management actually really love training, or do they see training as a bit of a pain in the backside?
Yeah, certainly some managers do. In fact, I was speaking to someone yesterday, and he said he was delivering leadership and management training. So he spoke to one of the managers, and he said, "So how are you finding the ILM 5 that you're doing, the Institute of Leadership and Management? And, how you find it? Is it taking lots of time?" Yeah, it is. My manager's got an ILM 7 and is still an idiot, though. Which is great, isn't it? That's brilliant. So, yeah, there you go.
Well, yeah. I mean, to be fair, just because you've had training doesn't mean to say you've...
No.
Well, that's the thing, though, isn't it? Is where does that, like, how often... I'm not going to lie, even the AET that I deliver, I don't think that it's got enough in it. I genuinely don't think it has got enough in it. I've even told the awarding body that. They know, because I speak to them. It's not, they're not going to change it for me. But there's a lot of people that get passed as trainers that I'm a little bit like, largely because I think that the problem you've got is that as soon as me, the qualification snob, saying now criticizing the qualifications, because you have to look at these things, that I don't think that that's fit for purpose for what people think it gives them. Because I think because it's the gold standard, many managers will go, yep, they need to do that, so they put them on it, and then all of a sudden they're running a training department, and I'm going, God, that's not enough.
Yeah,
like seriously, that's definitely not enough.
It's difficult. Guy, can you see this problem with where you're at with all of this?
Well, what's happening now, because I still keep in touch with colleagues in the fire service. So you get promoted from a firefighter to be a crew manager. And also when you're a crew manager, not only are you dealing with incidents, but you're dealing with the on-station training with the crews and your teams. So you are the person delivering the training. Now, the majority, and if I'm wrong, let me know, but I believe now the majority of firefighters have been promoted to crew manager, and not only are they not receiving instructor courses for the particular disciplines, but they're not receiving train the trainer courses as well. So you can imagine how hard it is for them. How they're going to train people?
Well, it is, because I saw, when I've been out, I've got to be very careful here now. I think things are changing with attitudes, and I was seeing that there, that the attitude of this is, I by and large I was treated very respectfully, but I could still see there was some of a, what do you know, because you're not a firefighter? And I said, no, I'm not a firefighter, but I do know the psychology behind training. And actually, in my own time, I went out to watch those firefighters because I wanted to see the challenges they had, which was 2-3 call outs in the time that when they were supposed to be doing the training. So I took the time to do that. But I said, fundamentally, it's still about the psychology of it. It's still about the psychology of working with people. And the issue you've got, as you said, is that when you get people that are promoted from, it's a bit like teaching assistants being used as teachers in schools. Exactly. Being a teaching assistant is very different than being a teacher. There's a whole, I'm not saying that they wouldn't be good at it, but actually some don't want to, that they don't want to do that. And to then throw somebody into a situation where they're not prepared, they might not be the right character, and they might not be prepared to do it. And it seems very unfair, particularly when I do that training with people. They go, whoa, I didn't realise there was so much to it. And there are so many. Military, the same, which was tough. You just do it like this. We've always done it like this. Man up, all this kind of stuff. And that's the bit about when you're a trainer that people don't get, is that you're actually you're dealing with this.
Yeah.
And dealing with a whole load of stuff that you see that people come into that room with, or when they're in their job, it particularly given what you do. And I was absolutely astounded to hear how little training there was given, just given how much. And I had absolutely even more respect when I heard how much you have to deal with, and then how little.
People need to get off their high horse as well.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to say this. People need to get off their high horse. Right? Let's take this to the top of the game. Right? Let's take this to possibly one of the hardest things that mankind's ever done. Right? Which is go to the moon. Right? How many people that get trained to be an astronaut are trained by people that have been an astronaut? Right? I'm not saying that astronauts don't get involved in training programs with other astronauts. They do, right? But there's a lot of other people that are involved in those training programs that have not been an astronaut.
Of course. Yeah.
Does that mean to say that, because, if you're a nutritionist and you're talking to an astronaut about nutrition, right, just because you haven't got in a rocket and gone to the moon or whatever, that you know nothing about your particular aspect of it? Absolute nonsense, right? But imagine if they went, well, you've never been to the moon, have you? You've never gone in a rocket, so why you can't tell me about spinach? I mean, it's just, honestly, people need to have a little bit more respect, I think, for the fact that they have got knowledge gaps and that they need those knowledge gaps filled, right?
Everyone can learn from each other.
Every day.
I don't know very much about fighting fires or rescuing or whatever, but as I said, you can know all of this stuff, but if you haven't got the psychology of how to actually deal with people, it's totally irrelevant. And if nothing else, you won't get respect from the people, particularly, I think, as we're moving on in time, that people expect that, quite rightly, they expect that. And I know there's been quite a shift in terms of neurodiversity. I know that when I went into a couple of places I've gone into, they wanted me because they had quite a few of the crew members and the people that are coming on the training who were neurodiverse. One of the, what do you call them? They wear the white shirts when you're from
a station officer, was it? Or
yeah, I think that's it. Oh no, is it JO or
a junior officer? That could be a watch manager.
Oh, it could be white shirt on anyway. But he was dyslexic, and they were very keen then for me to go in because I said a smaller business, they'd had quotes for online and all this kind of stuff, and actually I came up not very much different anyway, but they were getting an actual person there. And then when I went to one of the other stations, one of the guys I got talking to, and then he was saying that he'd been diagnosed with autism, and actually up till then he had been seen as a problem by the fire service because of his different way of looking at problems. But he said now they're changing it, that way it would be you have to do it this way, regardless of the fact that you could clearly see that there was another way of doing it. I can't remember how he worded it now, but it was it seems now that's quite a big thing. But he said in terms of the training around neurodiversity as well, as in whether it's because you're dealing with the public actually, or whether it's actually people understanding each other, not really any. And I hope now then that, particularly given the fact you are going to find, whether it's military, fire service, there's probably a lot of people that are neurodiverse because they're going to be attracted to that sort of role. Do you hear more people now talking about that they're coming out talking about neurodiversity more?
Yeah, certainly towards the end of my career, definitely it was spoken about. And to be honest, I saw it as an advantage because to have someone neurodiverse on your team, then you've got someone else thinking differently, which means if you go out to an incident, you need a problem to be solved, they might come up with the answer, which is gold dust. So why wouldn't you have them?
And quickly as well, which when time is of the essence is...
Yeah, that's right. So, it's an advantage.
Yeah, Alex Partridge talked on his about he talked about that actually neurodiverse people will absolutely flip out over the most tiniest of things.
Yeah.
And yet you face them with a huge problem. Everybody else is panicking and they're going,
Yeah.
problem. You just need to do this and this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really interesting conversation for me to have, but also it was quite, I don't want to say an eye-opener, it was quite a breath of fresh air to hear, because I know that I think sometimes men see it as it's on a par with mental health stuff, and they might not want to talk about it. It isn't, well, it can be. But yeah, to hear there was quite a few of the guys speaking quite freely about it was, I thought, really good. But it's that step forward then. Like I said, there seemed to be, and from a lot of them were saying there'd been a change. There's been a shift in terms of the away from the we've always
well, that's
done.
good. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we need to see any move towards talking about any difference as a really positive thing. You know, people need to talk about at work, what, regardless of what the role is or how, you know, macho that, you know, image of that role is or whatever else, we need to see people being vulnerable at work as well. You know, and there needs to be space for people to talk vulnerably about, you know, how their experience of that work is, and only then can we really kind of move on and give people the help and support that they really need.
Do you find people are? I know the guys that I spoke with, it was almost like even if they wanted to speak up about like trauma or anything like that, even if they did want to, there was kind of no space for it anyway, which just seemed dreadfully sad, because I wonder then how many people you lose from the service because in the end they burn out, they've had enough.
There's not really a safe space. They make out there is. How we try to deal with it in the fire services is a black humour or dark humour but that's straight away. So you come back from an incident and someone makes a joke and you're like, oh God, that's a bit harsh, you know, and it kind of it helps you get through it. However, the way the fire service in Leicestershire deal with mental health, that you do an online course and then if you go to a bad incident, you have an officer ring you up, say, hi Guy, everything all right? Yeah, great. Oh, okay, just wondered, puts the phone down. So if they were that's the truth. And if they were really concerned, how I would see it is they'd come to the station. They'd come and sit down with us.
Yeah.
But we're too busy for that. Oh, so do you care for your people or not? Yeah, but we're too busy, Guy. Too busy about your own bloody promotion.
So what's the end result? Does that, I mean, where does that leave people? Because surely at some point in time that has to come out the wash.
It can do. You just have to crack on with it.
But do people then go off sick, leave?
Yeah, some do. I mean, yeah, I'm sure some people do. But yeah, and then I suppose people find their own coping mechanisms. Some are positive ones, some are not so positive. Like for me, it would be fitness, running, that kind of thing. For some people, it's alcohol and possibly drugs, which is probably a poor choice.
And let's be fair. I mean, you're talking about this in the fire service, but this is actually the same in a lot of sectors across a lot of different organizations. I genuinely believe that although this is the next phase really for work life and getting things right and management, which we're not in yet, which is that we've started talking about it, we've started putting it on the agenda,
yeah,
but too often it's either greenwashing or it's just, you know, resides in the sort of, as you say, tick box file, as opposed to genuinely getting to grips with this stuff and actually finding proper solutions and answers for it. And, you know, I'm gonna be fair to all management in this. This stuff is hard, and I think it's really part of the problem is that we just haven't worked out how to do these things right yet. Yeah, and it's because of lack of resources, lack of funding, lack of money. You know, people are, you know, whatever the organization is or whatever the business structure is, it all comes back down to, let's make this profitable. Let's make this work from a monetary point of view. Let's make it commercial. However,
but training's never, this is where the problem comes though, isn't it? Training doesn't make money, does it?
Well, it does, but
but not in a, that's why I say when I see other people, so how's work? And I said, well, I'm trying to sell. I don't try and sell, but something that is seen as a added extra.
Yeah.
Only when everything's gone tits up or because they've been told they've got to have it.
But it's just a viewpoint shift. It's just a viewpoint shift. But this is the problem.
Guy, do you deliver leadership training? Am I right in thinking?
Yes.
So do you do that to the fire service or?
No, there's no leadership training in the fire service. Well, not in Leicestershire anyway. It's all online. Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I speak to colleagues all the time, and so I spoke to a friend of mine who I work with. They've been promoted, and I said, "So, did you get any development?" And they just said, "No, I was just told to crack on. And I'll leave it with you." Yeah.
Well,
somebody did tell me that if you want to be promoted, I don't think it was you, so I'm not going to drop you in it. I'm particularly sure it wasn't you actually. But it was somebody in the fire service, and it wasn't the group that I taught. But if you want to get promoted, the best way is to go into training.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because no one
horrified me. Yeah, that just horrified me.
Yeah, no one wants to do it, so that's the best way to become a crew manager from the firefighter. Certainly in Leicestershire.
Wow.
Yeah. Nobody wants to do what? Training or management?
To be a trainer in the training department.
Because now they have because they have people that do training within their watch, but then they have the college, because I'd contacted them because I said it might be an idea for me to work with the college for them actually to nationally or whatever it was, if I put on the training for the teacher training, they found me the people, so to speak. I never ever got a response for them. I emailed them twice.
No, you won't.
Me. And then so I had, it was strange really, because I had the people in the white shirts who were the employed trainers.
Yeah.
So they did like I think they trained the apprentices and so they had to have that qualification. And I think the others, well, I don't think they had to for their role, but I think they were put through it because they knew that it would be helpful. I think they wanted to have it that every JO, so every junior officer, had the training qualifications so that they could deliver that training.
Well, no, if it is done in Leicestershire, it'll be online.
What
the trainer, if they are doing the AET level 3, it'll be online.
I just find it horrific that people can be trained how to train people by something that isn't a human.
Yeah.
I know that people would think that's because of obviously what my business is, but I still fundamentally think, how can you, like, it would be like training. Well, the thing is with training, it's not even just about showing people stuff. It's people being able to ask that question. I did some tiling at the weekend. I'm very, very proud. I've now done some tiling. That I was able to ask my husband the questions about when I cut this, if I do that, or he said to me, put it on at whatever thickness. And he said, put some grooves down it. Okay. So I then said, do I have to go right down to the wall, or do I just, he said, oh, no, just gently score. you know, so, but I wouldn't have been able to ask those things.
No.
So it would have been my interpretation of what that meant. And there was quite a few things that we did, and I was being a perfectionist about it all. And he was like, you need to not be at the moment when you're getting it on.
Yeah.
But and he was sort of explaining stuff to me that.
And we've talked about that as well before, which is that some people say that actually delivering everything online now makes everything really inclusive. Because if you deliver it all online,
then sorry,
it's really accessible. You can access it anytime you like. You can access it in different ways or whatever. But I'd argue that, yeah, fine, make it available online, but make it available person to person as well, because there's some people that cannot learn that particular way. That looks really nice.
Looks really nice. I did all the edging as well.
Excellent.
But that's the point. It's not inclusive to take away a whole form of training and only do something else as well. We are out of time. We're out of time.
You changed colour.
I know. I changed colour midway through. I just wondered whether anyone noticed. There we are. Do it again.
The other one made it look like it was night time. The blue one.
It did. It did. I was thinking, God, I look very, very yellow as well. Like you know,
now you
out in the sun. Yeah. But what I was going to say is, I hope you've enjoyed this today, folks. If you've this has been your experience in the workplace as well, that you know, training follows a particular route, shall we say, and you don't necessarily feel it's being as effective as possible, do join in the conversation. We'd love to hear from you.
But can Guy just say what your business is? You can.
Oh, thank you. So my business is called the Hyde Group Limited, and the reason it's called the Hyde Group is because, yes, it's my company, but I have a group of affiliates that we work together, and they're all former fire service incident commanders similar to me, and or former armed forces as well. So we're leadership consultants, help businesses grow. So
yeah, please do get in touch with Guy if you want to know more. And if you're listening and you're involved in one of the forces, you know, whether you're involved in the fire service or the police force or whatever, and you'd like to have your say and come back on what you've heard today, please get in touch. We'd love to have you on. We'll give you a grilling. Don't worry, we do with everybody that comes on, and you know, but you have the right to have your say. Put it that way. You know, if you think that you don't believe that it's what the way that it is that we've said today, then come and talk about it. There you go. We'll be back same time, same place next week with more of the same of this. Please do share amongst your friends, your family, and other people on the platforms on which you see this, if you feel that this has been great value. Until next week, bye for now.
Bye.